Sunday. It's a beautiful day. Got some other jobs and things I need to do this afternoon. Might cut the grass. But I've decided it's time to stop procrastinating on this scuttle panel at least, and I'm going to anneal the edges and fold them around. I need to get the skin on the frame. This is where I'd fold it down a little bit just to give a bit more clearance. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be good enough. I've been worrying about these sharp corners, and on some restorations you see they make them more of a radius, but originally they were pretty sharp. And if you look very closely at some pictures of original cars, for some value of original these days, it's always hard to tell, but cars that are known to be pretty untouched, a lot of them do show evidence of cracking in this corner up here. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably drill about a 1/4 inch hole and trim it. Just leave that little 1/4 inch there rather than getting a really sharp bend in there. But I am going to anneal everything to help with hammering that round. There'll be a little bit of messing around just around these hinges, but again, I think I'll just neatly trim it around where the hinges go and fold the rest around. There's more than enough there to fold around to hold it in place. So oxyacetylene out, I'm going to anneal around those corners where I'm going to fold it and see how it goes. Have the front scuttle skin wrapped to the frame now. Still a lot of tidy up around the corners and things. It's gone pretty well. It was going very well until there was a bit of a problem. So there's a few little problems tidying up around the hinges. These just have to be trimmed out and filed. This bottom corner is a bit strange. I'm probably going to trim it flush with the edge here. There may be another strip of aluminium that gets tacked to the side here. Same on this other side. But the fronts come on pretty nicely, but there was a big problem. And that problem is I've cracked the timber frame here. So when you're wrapping this edge around, you have to hit it pretty hard to get it to break around the corner and then hammer it flat. And what I didn't realize is as I was hammering it, it was cracking this. So this is now moved. What I'm going to have to do, I think, I was very annoyed when I saw that. There were words said, let's put it that way. I'm going to re-anneal this corner, fold this back out, try and smooth it out a little bit, and then I'm going to have to epoxy all of this up, but I'm going to reinforce it. I'm going to make, I've already got these steel brackets in here. Probably what I should have done, and I have seen this done on cars, is diagonal bracing from this top here down. That would have stopped this moving, so that was less likely to happen. So I'm going to take these steel things out, add that bracing, and I might make an additional piece. I'm going to weld a piece on here to fit in here, and then make a matching piece on the other side and bolt it through. I'm going to do it on this side as well, just to keep all of this strong. You can sort of see the problem is I've got end grain here, so I should have made these differently so that the grain was going that way, but because it curves 90 degrees, I'd have to splice multiple pieces together. Unfortunately, it's now, because the skin is on, it's too hard for me to take those pieces out because they're screwed from the top. I suppose I could cut it all out and redo it, using these as templates, and put that metal in there. It might be a better thing to do. In which case, if I do that, do I do this side as well? The skin is just wrapped at the moment. It's not tacked anywhere, which is why there's a few clamps still on the bottom. It needs to be pinned underneath. All of this has come out okay. The welds didn't crack on this side, but I did crack a weld just there and just here. That's not a crack, that's just a little low spot. So I may TIG those up and file them smooth. And I put little rounds on the corners here because those do crack, and if you look at pictures of original cars, you will see they're often cracked there, I think. So I have to decide how I'm going to fix this. I think because I've now put the skin under here, that's holding the top on. If I'd realized before I'd done this edge, I could have taken the skin off in order to repair it. But yeah, tricky. I think what I want to do is take these out. I can still get to the screws underneath here. Take these pieces out, cut all this off and remake those. It's just a major pain in the neck because then I have to redo all these hinge fittings and bits and pieces. But now I'm worried that this side might crack as well, especially because this is where the door sits. You can see how flexible that is. Obviously once this is bolted to the chassis it's not so bad, but there is twist in the chassis, so I'm wondering if that would just end up cracking again. It was going really well up until that point, so I'm going to stop and have a think. Here's what I've decided to do. I did re-anneal that fold and unfolded it, flattened out the metal a bit, and as soon as I unfolded it, that timber went back to where it should have been. So that's definitely what cracked it. It was the tension of having the skin too tightly folded around it. Basically that fold was about 1/8 of an inch. It wasn't much, too far down. And it would have just been because when I was hammering it, I was putting pressure on it and bending it without realizing. So flatten that out. That'll need quite a bit of cleaning up when I re-hammer it round. But I basically decided I'm not going to try and replace those pieces of timber. That's just inviting disaster. So because the timber went back to where it needed to go, I was able to flood the crack with glue and clamp it up. I've got that piece of wire there pulling it under tension and it's all clamped. So that's back to where it should be. And I've removed the timber, the steel support pieces. That's these. And what I'm going to do is reinforce these. I will triangulate them down, especially the bigger one on the passenger side. And I'm going to make 3mm steel metal plates that will go, there'll be one here and it'll be right angle, so I can screw it to this, and that piece of reinforcing which goes in the back here will have an extension piece on here so I can bolt it through, and that'll hold that joint tight. None of this is structural. You know, it's just there to support the skin. The main worry is this is where the door bolts to, so you want this to be strong, you don't want this to break. But I think that'll be fine, that'll fix it. There's more than enough strength just in the skin almost. So with that steel there, that'll prevent the weight of the doors breaking this, and it should also prevent, because the steel will be able to flex, so if there's any twisting in the chassis, it'll take that up, because these are pretty flexible. I mean, I don't know how much the chassis will flex, but there's plenty of twist in the ash. And then I think once the skin is folded back around again, I still need to clean that up a little bit, it should be okay. What I need to do when I fold it round is hold a big piece of metal underneath there and push it up, so that or even better, cut a piece of timber to fit in there, just so that this can't be pushed downwards. There's all sorts of little scraps of aluminium around here now. So I'm going to leave that overnight now to dry. I might do the steel work today. I'm going to take a break now, and I need to do some other chores. I might just hammer that up, and I need to have a clean up again because there's stuff everywhere, including my oxyacetylene, which is getting pretty low on acetylene. Yeah, it's in the red. So yeah, bit of a tidy up and then leave it for the day, I think. This shows you how far out of position I was when I folded this over, because when I did, I'd cut these to be flush with the hinges. So that's a bit of a pain, because now there's always going to be a little gap there, but that's okay. I think I can live with that. I suppose I could always, I might be able to slip a piece of copper or something down behind there and build that up with weld, that edge, just to bring it back flush with that. I think if it's not flush, I don't think anyone would notice, but yeah, it gives you an idea of where that went wrong. So I'll probably have to build up these little corners with weld a little bit as well, not sure. But now that this has been hammered smooth, relatively smooth, I'll re-anneal that to make it really soft there when I hammer it around. And like I say, I will put something behind here to make sure it doesn't move again. And I think that gluing that joint will be fine. Once those extra supports are in there and it's all bolted up, that'll be a nice, very solid joint. It'll probably break at the bottom next. This little edge, I'm not quite sure what to do with. If I'll make a cover strip that goes along here and just folds over, I probably will. There'll just be a little seam there. I'm not sure. I'll have to see about that. But I'm going to leave it now till the glue dries. Figured out how I'm going to fix this. I think I mentioned I'm not going to try and remove any timber. That would just be a disaster at this point. So all I need to do is reinforce that joint. This is all still clamped up with the glue drying. This is ready to be wrapped around again. Again, you can see how far it had moved, about 1/8 of an inch. So this is going to be pretty manky. This will definitely need a bit of filler to hide some of that when it's actually done. I will probably put a piece of copper, aluminium and then copper behind there and fill that up with weld, get that flush again, because otherwise you'll see that the hinges do stick out, so I don't want there to be a little gap there. But that'll be easy enough once all that glue dries. But what I've come up with is this monstrosity. My original bracket was just this sort of U shape, and I've added a piece of angle at the top which ties the doorpost pillar direct to the piece that bolts to the firewall. So this fits in there. It's a bit of a tricky fit. It's one of these things where it goes in square. If there's any sort of angle on it, it won't go in, but believe me, it does go in. Luckily there's all these holes in here for the hinges and bolting the frame down to the chassis, that I was able to bolt this in place and then figure out the pieces I wanted. But the way this will work is this will go in there. Obviously the hinges bolt straight through this into that door pillar. There's a hole there for a screw to go up into the timber. So if this goes on the car that way, there'll be a screw through there to tie it to that top rail, and then there'll be a 1/4 inch bolt that'll go all the way through, and there'll be another little plate that'll fit up in here to help tie all of this together. That's out of the way of the door. It has to, because of course the door is quite thick, so that has to be out of the way. And then I'll do the same on this side, but I can't get to this side while the glue's drying. So that's where we're at. Where the skin is over the body, the shape looks okay. It's quite hard to get really tight bends here, but I don't want to, I think. I want to leave them a bit rounded because it's all going to be painted. I may fill that in with weld as well. I think I sort of messed that up a bit. I filed it a bit too far. But again, I can put a piece of flat copper behind there, and I should be able to take that out without doing too much damage to the timber. So I'm going to paint this now. Unfortunately, I've run out of my favorite paint, that engine paint, and I used to get it from Supercheap and they don't have it anymore. Apparently it got too expensive, so they stopped stocking it, which is a bit of a pain. I'll have to see if I can get some online. So for this I'll use some CRC black zinc. That should do the trick quite nicely. Yeah, I'll have to come back to the other side tomorrow, but basically it'll be the same process. I've already welded the plate to it. It is missing a little corner there. Maybe I'll weld in a little piece there just to fill it in so it looks smooth, because you will see this from inside the car. I might do that tonight. And I have another piece of angle which should hopefully fit. Might be a little bit too short. Yeah, I think that piece might be too short. I'll have to see if I've got any more of that. But I can't do that, like I say, until the clamps are off. But I think that'll fix that. Yeah, I think that's it for the day. I have made up as much as I can for the near side. A couple more of those little brackets. They end up getting cut off because there's a bit of a curve there, and I've painted the ironmongery, which has come up okay. That'll look fine. Once it's in the car you won't notice it. I was looking at the rear in case there's any other places like that where I might have problems, but everything on this is kind of not triangulated, but it's all square. There's no flapping bits, where of course on this you've got these big long legs that stick out, and when they're not bolted to the car they act like big levers, which can put a lot of force on things. So pack up time. I think the rest of it came out okay. I mean, it looks all right. I do have to fix those places where it cracked a little bit. Again, I don't think it's actually cracked all the way through. I think it's just opened up where the penetration was poor. Penetration hasn't gone all the way through. I'll need to dress this fold a little bit more. Like I say, I don't want hard corners. I wanted them to be fairly radiused, because it's all going to get painted and the bonnet will come up to that. So to do the hammering, I didn't use a steel hammer. I used my wooden mallet, which is the one I made for my Austin 7 from a random piece of tree branch that was in my house, in my garden with my house up in Avondale. And I did the whole Austin with that, and I've done a lot of the Riley with it, but I think it may be on its last legs, so I may need to find something new. I don't even know what sort of wood that was. Yeah, you can see on this side where it's a bit neater how it comes out and still needs filing. And yes, I think I'll just trim these flush straight down there. And there may be another strip that gets just simply folded over this. Just a little edge strip, probably with a few tacks to hold it. And then when the door's on there, you won't, no, you would see that, I think. Well, it'll be under the door comes up to here, so if there's a little line there, nobody's going to notice. And again, touch of filler if that's what's needed. So an annoying day's progress, really.